Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk Made in Abyss, episode 3. So, I think we're about to end the introductory arc, I suppose you could call it, because now next episode we are in the Abyss. We are heading down into the Abyss. So, with this episode, what it largely does is just finish kind of fleshing out the world that I guess started getting structured last episode, and then just giving us our mission, giving us our mission statement, giving us where we're going now. We're heading down into the Abyss. So the episode really was just largely setting up the departure and also talking about the structure of the Abyss. Truthfully, I think that was my favorite part of the episode because I just like knowing more in-depth information about what each of the layers are like, and it's pretty cool. So I'm pretty happy to see it. I hope we get to see quite a few of the layers. And I say I hope because, you know, the idea is we're just going to go straight to the bottom of the Abyss. That seems to be where the story is saying it wants to go through Rico. And I'm just, it's odd to me, right? I'm kind of apprehensive because it's like, this is a little girl, a 12-year-old, and she's going into a place where people die pretty frequently. And it's just, will the narrative actually go that far? Are we actually going to the bottom of the Abyss? Because, you know, I thought it was going to be something like, oh, this is going to be the adventure of the kids as they go to each layer, level by level, and then, you know, they come back and they deal with their things, and then they go back into the Abyss. You know, I really thought it would have a more, I guess, video game-like structure. But no, it looks like they just want to go straight down to the Abyss. That's pretty scary. Like, truthfully, if she didn't have Reg with her, she'd probably die, and that'd be pretty unfortunate. But yeah, overall it's just a difference in the narrative structure from what I was expecting. So it seems to be they want to go into the bottom of the Abyss, although there's a few things going on the top world that I think I would really enjoy getting to revisit again. I'd love to revisit the little kid, Kiwei, I think that was his name, the kid that's sick. I would love to come back up to the top world and see how he's doing. I would love to come back to the top world and see how the leader's doing. You know, it seemed like it was, you know, comparatively, the top world doesn't seem as interesting as the Abyss, but I felt like it could have been a nice, worthy time. Again, I haven't read the manga, so I don't know if we're going to end up coming back, if something's going to go wrong when we got to like the third layer and they have to come back. But overall, it would be cool to see how the people on the top are still doing after that. But given the way that Abyss is kind of structuring its world, we know that there's probably not going to be any help coming for Rico once she goes down there. Or sorry, I guess once she gets in deeper, there's not going to be really any help coming for her. And that was pretty interesting because that kind of continued what we were talking about in the last video about it's interesting how this world kind of celebrated the death of the White Whistle. And now we get a full-on structuring here. We get told which layers exactly belong to which of the whistles, like up to which point can any certain whistle go. And then we find out like what they do about the male balloons. And we get also a nice little morsel of information from Rico when she says like her mom probably made a bunch of different male balloons to increase her chances of getting that message out. But we find out that the messages themselves, and this is a pretty interesting thing, if the message comes from one of the lower whistles, it's treated as rumor because they don't know if that whistle was competent enough at the moment of writing the message. They don't know if the whistle was compromised. And then they had the distinction that, well, if a white whistle sends that message, it is news. And then they had like Shiggy was kind of telling us of a weird little association that they do in that through the or rather, how did he say it? It was, yeah, the white whistle's voice is immortalized through the Abyss. It becomes a voice of the Abyss. It becomes news. It becomes a guiding post for other whistles who are going in there. And that was a really interesting concept because they say, like, he even said, I think in the words, it immortalizes the white whistle. And it's like, that's pretty congruent with what we saw from the last episode, that getting the white whistle back and maybe it having a message is like such a big deal. And now like they did their last dive and now they're back and now they're like immortalized forever. You know, it's a very interesting mechanic, or it's a very interesting mindset to have, and it's just a mindset that would be developed in a culture where death is happening so frequently. But it's pretty interesting how people adopted it to make it something a lot less grim than what it actually is. Now, there was another really interesting thing about all of that, and that was it actually reminds me a lot of what happens when people are climbing Mount Everest. And this is kind of one of the more macabre elements of Mount Everest, but Mount Everest specifically has a kind of a navigation system, or it has guideposts on it to tell climbers where they're going. And the guideposts are actually other climbers who have failed the climb. So it's actually really interesting. It's a kind of interesting scene to be a part of, and it's just people can tell where they are in their Mount Everest expedition or their climb if they can find one of the guideposts. And I think one of the guideposts in Mount Everest is, I think, green boots. It's specifically a corpse that froze there, but its defining feature was that it was wearing like really colorful boots, or green boots. There is two others, but I can't recall them anymore. But it's pretty interesting. It's kind of like that, you know. It's like you're using dead people to make the process a little bit easier for the living. And I really just liked being reminded of that. I think that's pretty cool. And you know, the Abyss has other ideas that I think come from this kind of level of expedition, like the Benz-like symptoms. We see Nat vomiting when he's coming back from the first layer. You know, it's pretty cool to see these little ideas and finding out, like, yeah, you know, these ideas have some place in the real world. Anyway, guys, if you want to like look up the stuff on Everest, it's pretty crazy. Just like search Everest green boots or yellow boots, one of the two colors, and you're gonna find it, and it's gonna blow your mind. But anyway, I really enjoyed that part of the episode. I enjoyed getting that information. Now, truthfully, I do think this episode wasn't as visually impressive as others, and that might just be because we were stuck in rooms very often. But then we had the sequence with Reg in the Abyss, just kind of doing his thing, looking for relics, and we find out more about the praying skeletons. Well, we see another praying skeleton. It's just very interesting how all of them were praying. That would be pretty interesting to find out why are all the remains praying. That'd be cool. It'd be cool to find that out. So with Reg, you know, he just gets his introduction to the Abyss. We get through that, and then beyond that, I guess the rest of the episode is just emotional backbone, right? We're dealing with Nat's backstory. We're dealing with Nat's emotions. We're dealing with Rico's emotions. And it's like, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, Rico's saying something like, we'll be connected by the Abyss. And it's like, man, that's pretty sad, all right? Like, that's pretty sad. Usually, what would people say? Oh, we're connected by the same sky. If you look at the moon, I'll look at the moon. It's like, if you look into the abyss will look back at you, and I will be looking up with it. And it's just like, you know, it's a society of death seekers, or it's a society that plays so closely with death, that kind of logic, putting the Abyss as the most important thing that's connecting two parties. It's congruent. It makes sense given what we know about this society. But it still makes it really sad. And seeing that Rico was crying as much as Nat was, or even more, was, I think, very adorable and very heartwarming. Like, truthfully, she's a 12-year-old girl, and going into this really dangerous place makes it seem actually, no, it's super sketchy. It's not seeming sketchy, it's super sketchy. But it's a pretty fun watch. I'm pretty excited to get into the Abyss again. I'm pretty excited to see the wonders that this show is going to have for us. And I just hope we get to come back and see these characters again at some point. Ideally. And now Reg at the end found I think a message. Is that from the leader? I might have missed the context clues for why he got that message, but I'm assuming it's from the leader. Maybe he predicted that something like this would happen. I don't know why any guy would let this happen, but I'm pretty excited to see that. If you guys, well, actually no, there's manga readers in this video. Don't tell me whatever the thing that Reg found is. Try to keep it secret. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for me. I enjoyed the episode. It was emotional, and it just finished up fleshing out the world. And yeah, we're going into the Abyss. So I'll end it there, guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a great day. And if you got this far, consider subscribing, because you might really like the videos I do. Yeah, I don't like shameless plugs. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, I hope you have a great day.